Welcome back, fans, to the Gen.R SSL Classic, and we've had 2 of our matches already completed. If you blinked, you might have missed it, but we've got 2 longer matches, at least on paper, hopefully coming up here next for you guys on Circuit Breaker and Neo Jade, the 2 PVTs.
That's right. They're on paper right now, but we'll put them into digital.
Yeah, like
form.
right here on my paper, like I wrote them down.
Yeah, I was like, you guys have to watch us do a flip book game. I don't know. That's not how
I
it works.
wrote it down. I'm like, this one should be the longer one. Yeah, I wrote it down on paper.
This is short game. This is long game. That's our analysis, guys. But we do have 2 PVTs coming up, and coming up next, it's going to be Free versus sSak. And you know, Free, one of the 6 Protoss dragons, the nickname given to a period of Protoss dominance where there were 6 Protoss players who were just a cut above literally everyone else. And Free, the guy coming out today, one of, along kind of with Bisu, one of the PVZ gods. His matchup versus Terran is not maybe quite as well known for him, but he was always known for his like battle micros, so his control on individual units, super sick to watch.
Yeah, he also has a really good record against sSak specifically when looking that up. So I didn't actually look at the exact numbers. I just looked at their head-to-heads, and it was a long list of matches they played against each other. You know, in online tournaments, of course, and offline at the ASL, for example, and the team battle. I was just looking through it, going like, okay, I think I could stop reading here. Free has been destroying sSak pretty consistently. Remember, guys, sSak is an ex-SKT player, and if you follow League of Legends or you follow Pro League here in StarCraft 2, you probably know the name. It's like the Yankees of Korean esports, and oftentimes even Korean baseball. Wyvern's doing pretty decently most of the time, but they're not quite the Yankees level in Korean baseball. But that's another topic for another time. We don't talk about T-sports over here. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say is he was on the best team. He had a lot of good practice partners, but he never really blossomed when he was playing in the Kespa era. Here he is on screen now. He did end up winning OGN's Sonic Star League, the Spenu-sponsored league, and that is his greatest achievement. He has consistently qualified for the ASL, has gone deep in that tournament several times, but we're now listening to the 2010 Korean Air opening music. I love that song.
Super
Bringing it back, classic.
It is called the SSL Classic.
Yeah.
So.
Supposed to be bringing back all the old Star League intro music for this tournament. But anyways, sSak, definitely the underdog, I would say, in this TVP.
Yeah, he also had a really weird TVT game versus, I think it was last in Team Battle, I think it was most recently. So he's definitely an innovator, at least for the current era. Now, Free, this guy is a little bit of an enigma to me because he has been, at one point, one of the best Protoss players alive, but especially in his games, I think yesterday, he got bopped kind of hard. He lost to Shine and Snow, but he died so that we could witness one of the greatest Brood War games I've ever seen, which was the last game of the night yesterday in ASL. But tonight, I don't really know what to expect to this guy because I haven't actually seen him play against a Terran player in quite a while.
We'll see how he's performing today. Again, I just want to point out his positive record, massively positive record against sSak in this matchup. And whoever's the referee in his booth is not a good friend because he's letting Free put that headset on and make him look like he's a Who from Whoville. But he is...
That's where you got to have a bro that's just like, hey man, you got to fix your headset a little bit there.
You can't have the Huck headset hair, man. He's got the Huck headset hair. You look back at Huck's GSL matches, he's got the headset hair every time. All right, guys, let's hope for a longer match here for our TVP as we go into match number 3 here of day 1 of the SSL Classic. Here we go to the bottom right, spawning in orange. This is the Terran player sSak, former SKT.
Find out if by the end of the game he gets lost in the dryer. His opponent in the red in the upper right-hand corner of Circuit Breakers. This is the red Protoss player, a guy named Free. Now, this guy, definitely not free like his name may imply, but one of the best players that I've had a chance to watch, at least recently on stream. Doesn't necessarily always transfer to on offline play.
He says, she says, rather watch Free than even watch Flash Jade on Stork and the likes.
Wow, that's the sickest fangirl right there.
Yeah, that's what that said.
Well, at that point, I just need to sit her down and have like a long conversation. It's just like I mean, they're pretty good, right? I don't know if I would list myself as that big of a fan of Free, but I mean, we'll get a chance to see him, you know, here today. Definitely needs a little bit of revenge for his ASL matches yesterday. He got taken out 0-2 in ASL in the round of 24. So, I mean, at least this is going to be a group stage situation, so no players get eliminated just yet.
And he may be deciding to focus more primarily on the SSL because there's money to be earned every day over a longer period of time. So perhaps that's what he's decided to do since he was voted in here. And there's obviously a lot of pressure from the fans who voted him in for him to perform well, including that said fan in the crowd who held the sign. There's a lot to talk about, by the way, about the map pool that we didn't really get too deep into. I want to mention, as this is something that was brought up actually today. I watched an interview Artosis was doing on the Dank Shrine podcast, where he talked about how Brood was never fully balanced, despite the it is well balanced, but never perfectly balanced, right? And the maps that come into play during certain eras can really change and offset one race being too strong at a time. Obviously, there are some eras where certain Zergs who are not normally named, but I'll say his name, Savior, come in and you know, destroy everyone in an era where Zerg's not beating Terra, and that does happen. But in general, maps are often adjusted based on balance and based on win rates. So we're starting things off with this map pool that's really varied and unusual, and because we have such a even race distribution, we're going to get an idea as to how strong the races are going to play out on these maps. And later on, perhaps we'll have a different map pool for the playoffs if it's deemed necessary.
Yeah, and I was talking about map balance. This is on Circuit Breakers, so one of the most statistically balanced maps ever made. Oh my God, how do you still? Oh, wow, sickest denial there.
That never works for me, by the way.
I'm pretty sure the SCV could have gotten through if you just like spam click fast enough, because it looked like he got past the Zealot, but I mean, this is Brood War.
Well, yeah, what's interesting to note, by the way, is in StarCraft 2, you actually have vision of the entire map, so you could mineral walk past a unit like this when you're scouting, because you could see where the minerals are even if you haven't scouted them yet. You could walk through the Zealot. But in Brood War, you don't start with full map vision, so you can't actually mineral walk without seeing the minerals through said units. So you can't really SCV drone his way up there. That was going to be pushed off by this Dragoon.
Or will it? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, no!
Oh, he's got one more shot. Yeah, he was at 2 shots away.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, is that mischance, or are Dragoons just that bad? Well, turns out they're not that great when it comes to hitting that last shot on workers sometimes.
SCVs have 60 hit points, of course, in Brood War. I was going to see this high ground command center taken. Now, the Protoss in this matchup will play a bit of an aggressor super early on.
Yeah.
Because we had the Zealot come out here, the second Dragoon is going to be fairly late. He's not even going to commit, actually, to the Singularity Charge upgrade just yet. Getting a faster Nexus instead, he's going to go and check to make sure no shenanigans is going on, because that Zealot's going to be totally useless otherwise. You know, you just make that for safety, and he commits to it. Also helps deny the scout, which could scare Socket into thinking, oh, what if he's got... Because he killed the SCV. Could be a Dark Shrine. Could be Temple Archive tech coming up soon. Could be a DT drop coming his way. He doesn't know, and he wants to keep it that way. It's going to use these Dragoons to pressure the SCV away. Had he skipped the Zealot, perhaps he has a second Dragoon, and he pokes the front. It's going to be a Robo coming up instead.
All right, so this is one of the most standard Protoss builds that you can do. Some other builds require you to take a later Nexus and get maybe an earlier Reaver out, but this is just super solid. I mean, the SCV will poke forward and see that there is a Nexus building, so immediately SSak knows, hey, no pressure on the way just yet, because that is one of the hallmarks of TVP, is that sometimes if you do go for, you know, either maybe a 2 gateway pressure early on, then you're going to be having to deal with a lot more coming your way. Now, SSak totally ready for everything. He's got siege mode out and is about ready to take his natural.
Yep, he decided to take his natural on the high ground just to be safe because he had no scouting information, as you mentioned. And with the Zealot there too, he's concerned about trying to bunker the low ground. So just waited until the siege tanks were out. 2 of them, in fact. Siege mode completes. Takes a low ground. That probe scouts, of course, very briefly there.
Unluckiest probe of life. Yeah, that guy is not making it back home to his family, that's for sure. Now, here come these 3 Dragoons. These are not necessarily meant to deal a whole lot of damage. He knows that there's a siege tank out, so just going to put them out there on the map for not really like a soft contain, but just to get that vision and make sure he is well appraised.
He's going to be able to make sure no overlords, vultures sneak by, and also stop any SCVs that are coming for a follow-up scout. He's checked the entirety of the relevant map with his Zealot to make sure there was no hidden SCV out there. So now he knows he cannot be scouted unless there's a scan, which, by the way, SSak did get a very early armor. He's going to have 2 ComSat scanners as the first one already up and available, so he's going to be able to scout that way. But in terms of SCV scouting, he's going to be totally free from worrying about that, if you will. Now, he's going to take this fast triple.
Whoa, yeah, this is a very fast third base, if in fact it is going to get put down here.
Looks like he just doesn't have enough money yet, but look, like you said, he's taken a very safe build. He's gone into the quick observatory after the Nexus was secured. He's denied scouting overall, and SSak, you know, it'd be pretty unusual for him to actually ComSat scan this. He's going to check, he's like, oh, okay, you're just turtling up really hard, you've got siege tanks out here, you're playing super defensive, and this works really well for Free. He has all the vision, he gets away with this greedy Nexus, as he sees SSak is playing insanely defensively, has from the beginning with the high ground CC, and no vultures means he's really happy about this. Now he's going to feign some more pressure to make SSak feel a little bit more defensive while he takes this third Nexus. Really well played so far for the Protoss Free.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting to watch. I initially thought, okay, well, those early 3 Dragoons, oh my god, there's no possible way he expands
again. I think he is going to, because he really is tricked SSak here. And SSak really believes it. He's buying into this idea, okay, an attack is coming soon. He's going to siege up this double bridge location.
So if SSak really tries to push super hard out right now, I don't know if Free necessarily has quite enough. Now, the big thing is that SSak has no minefields out there laid by any vultures. He hasn't. This is the first vulture that he's sending out on the map right now. So
exactly.
That is a big weakness in, you know, the way you traditionally expect these kind of games to go. He invested very heavily into only siege tanks, and so he was very good defensively, but really getting punished here by Free, who might even just throw up his 4th base like we were talking about.
Free was able to identify early on the double siege tank. Now he has observers to see it's almost pure siege tank here, and he's going to catch any units that try to sneak around this side. He's going to get these vultures for free. He needs to back off. Doesn't want to lose Dragoons. He's going to lose just one. So a Dragoon for a vulture. Good trade for SSak. But again, he's threatening SSak. He's tricking SSak into thinking perhaps an attack's going to come soon. I have to play a little bit more defensively. He's going to take a late third base, late third CC. He didn't actually end up double expanding to get that extra gas, by the way. He considered it, but he's going to add additional gateways instead. And obviously that third base is now powered up. He's got the return on investment, so he's adding additional gateways to get more zealots out.
And look at what Free is doing here, pulling back their Dragoons, sensing that, hey, you know, that we didn't cover every single possible way for vultures to get out, and he's actually going to be in a great position to stop or intercept these vultures as they try to get out on the map. And for Terran, if you never get those big minefields out on the map, if you never, you know, are able to get your vultures out there to at least either scout or harass, Protoss does kind of grow like a Zerg. Now 4th base on the way, while the Terran still has yet to really get that 3rd up.
Yeah, he's got a large army, but as you mentioned, it's mostly defensive. The vulture count super low still. The mine count insanely low because he just didn't have them. There's a few mines planted now, which gives him more vision, but Free is getting away with this. He's getting away with murder, essentially, and now he's got a forge spinning, getting his attack upgrades, and he should be attacking towards Arbiters fairly soon. We did have the quick science facility, so that's one thing that SSak really did push out quickly to get the vessels out, which is to give him the ability to clear these observers a little bit easier, and then of course help deal with the Arbiters later on. There's the first vessel coming up. Actually misses the observer, sadly. No Goliaths nearby, so oops. But is moving across the map now as he realizes, okay, I've got to start putting some pressure on. I've been a bit duped here. I think he's scanned perhaps the 4th base. We don't actually have a way to check vision in Brewer, but the movement here kind of tells me he's figured it out.
All right, now this is the first big push of the game, but I think Free should be well appraised of the situation. He will have his observer out here to start clearing out these minefields, and there really is only that one, so this will allow Free the opportunity to come in for a flanking position on SSak, who was actually pushed way out in the middle of the map with no minefield left to guard his army. He starts setting one up now, but I mean, Free has the high ground right in front of him, and this is going to be pretty difficult for SSak to push through.
The Observer has been following this army the entire time, despite having a few Goliaths. He never cleared it. We're going to see the first Bulldog attempt here with the shuttle. Totally denied,
Wait,
though. Did not press unload. This time the Observer is going to get cleared. That was a misclick for sure.
Ooh.
But
okay, that's a little bit rough. That means that Free's Robo facility is going to be working overtime to replenish those units. Shuttle that never dropped any Zealots. Maybe it didn't even have any Zealots. Maybe it was empty, but worst case scenario is full of 4, and he just loses all of that. And so taking both of those out, SSak can actually feel very, very comfortable pushing a little bit further forward.
Well, this was supposed to be the moment where he slowed down SSak's army, but SSak gets the free advance here now. Towards these bridges. The bridges, obviously, on any StarCraft 1 map are so difficult to cross. The slow mech army or with the Dragoons that are super clunky. So it's tough to actually force his way in here. That's why we've already seen this setup defensively from Free with all the units, even on the left side there. They're going to look to catch these speed vultures as they move around. And he's not going to commit, just going to continue to mine this up. Arbiter's still nowhere to be seen just yet. He's committed most of his money to these gateway units. He's clearing this minefield. We're going to see the Vultures actually commit to an engage here to get these Spire Mines right next to the bridge. Dragging attempt here with the Zealots. Not able to get up top. We're going to see the Defensive Matrix here. He's going to go for it regardless. There's so many mines here, but here come those Speed Zealots.
So many Zealots, but great buffering there by the Vultures. Deep siege tank line there, taking out so many Dragoons.
Yeah, this is a poor attack here. Very poorly executed by Free.
Oh, and the punish from the Vultures chasing Free's army all the way back up to the high ground. Big win there for SSak.
Wholly unnecessary to attack like this. He already had a nice setup defensively. He's up on bases, and you know, he didn't have the Bulldog, he didn't have the shuttle. The Bulldog, of course, is to drop Zealots in the middle of the minefield, in the middle of the tanks, to drag mines in, and of course to the splash damage and siege tanks, that friendly fire. He didn't have Arbiters either, no Stasis, no Psystorm. He just thought the surround would be enough, but it clearly was not. But because he has so much money, look at the list of Zealots coming across the map, just massive, massive replenishing.
Okay, yeah, and that round is really what Free's going to need. He's going to run them all the way through these minefields, hopefully dragging them into the tanks, but instead dragging them back into his own army.
This was a game he was so massively ahead in, and off of just one engage, this is a free. Look, the Arbiter Tribunal is so late, he has no Arbiters. He thought he was just going to crush this army with the massive 4th base he added, all that extra money to make this gateway army to crush this push once, but he failed, and now he's struggling. That's a good drag. Let's see if he gets another.
Okay, kind of, but he lost so many Zealots there in the meantime. Saves the Observer there, which will be able to get a vision here of SSak's army pushing forward, but he just continues to lose so many Dragoons. He's going to try to send the Zealots in, this time actually getting right in on top of those tanks. Another nice D-Matrix. Vultures there actually behind the majority of the tank line, but it's so deep that Free just can't hang on.
The Defense Matrix so useful here. He wanted to have this for EMP, but as it turns out, there's no Arbiters, and Free may just have to type out GG.
Oh my God, Wolf.
Everything went wrong. He's stuck with a gateway army. He had the extra mineral base from the 3rd. He took the 4th base. You know, he had this large gateway army, he had the surround on the tanks. Messed up that shuttle, that was the first mistake. Lost the assumed 4 Zealots inside. Didn't have the shuttle for the re-engage, and he just saw, okay, I've got the surround here, I have the better position. I followed his army with an Observer the entire time. He never cleared it until it was too late. There was a late minefield, and he saw blood in the water. Took a hard engage, wholly failed it. The Defense Matrix really hurting him there, and obviously it's very difficult to engage with the Pros army, the Dragoons especially having an issue. The Zealots were up at the front without the Dragoon support. Wholly, the Zealots get cleared by the Vultures. Didn't have Stasis, didn't have Cloak with the Arbiters, didn't have Psystorm, just gateway units alone. And after that failed, he started Arbiter Tribunal, and I'm looking at it like, oh man, you had this game in your hands essentially, but threw it all away.
And you know, if you're new to Brood War, that game can look a little bit weird. You're like, okay, well the Terran's very defensive, so the Protoss can expand, but Terran really doesn't need that many bases to just kind of walk out there and kill you. Siege tanks are pretty good units, and unless you have, like you were talking about, that Arbiter, which was so late, Free just did not have what he needed when he needed it. Big push out and a little bit of bad control there by Free, and SSak takes him out.
Gateway units are just poor quality units alone. You know, you need the support of the Psystorm, or you need the Arbiters, or both later on in the game, and he had neither. And look, he had the Huck headset here, and he went with the Huck Gateway comp there. If you're a StarCraft 2 fan, you'll get it.
Oh my God!
Just straight gateway units there, and at the end of the day, it wasn't quality enough. He didn't have any shuttles. If you have 2 shuttles there with Zealots in it, you drop on top of the siege tanks, then suddenly the spider mines, you can either slam onto the tanks, or the tanks destroy themselves, or you force a move back. And there were very few Goliaths, mind you. There were like 4 in that army, so perhaps with 2 shuttles on top of that engage, he does better. He loses the first one, doesn't remake it. It was messy. And he took a game where he was massively ahead in econ and vision, etc., and could have had the tools to engage there, but the engagement didn't go his way, and that's the end of the story.
Yep, that is the end of our 3rd game. That means we're heading into our final game of the night. It's going to be the Terran player Light taking on the StarCraft 2 legend Rain in our final game of the night.